Welcome everyone to Little Tokyo 2's new podcast series From Startup to Growup. We offer short, sharp 20-minute overviews and interviews of successful founders, as well as 40-minute extended founder interviews with successful people who have graduated from LT2. I'm your host, founder and CEO of LT2, Jock Fairweather. In today's episode on From Startup to Grow, we interview Gerard Doyle, who is a good friend of ours at Little Tokyo 2 and is known in the startup space in Brisbane as the #1 go-to guy for customer acquisition. In fact, we use him at LT2 and we were able to take our digital customer acquisition cost from $500 down to $88. I highly recommend him, and I think you'll learn some pretty cracking tips and tricks from today's podcast. Enjoy. Hey Gerard, how you doing? Thanks for coming.
I'm good, thank you. No problem at all.
So, I want to know a little bit about you and your history and how you became known as the go-to guy for customer acquisition in the Brisbane startup scene.
I'd like to think I've got to that status already, but my career is started off in digital marketing. That was where I kind of got going back in way back in 1997. So that was the first time I got paid for doing SEO. So my theory of professionalism is as soon as you get paid, that's when you're a pro. So it makes me about one of the oldest going SEOs in Brisbane.
Oldest one I know.
Oldest one, yeah, and me too, unfortunately. The hairline gives it away. And yeah, basically my career's really been 6 jobs. I've worked for 3 startups that I founded, and I've built 3 marketing agencies. And so it's been...
Built and sold?
I sold 2 startups and 1 didn't really work out so well. So that's a long story, that one.
Yes.
But yeah, basically that's been my life. And what I discovered with the agency land was a lot of the time I was selling startup ideas. So startups, innovative companies, you do the cutting edge stuff. And when you go work in an agency with big corporate clients like Coca-Cola or Hewlett-Packard or GM.
Is that who you were working with?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. But, it sounds good, right? It sounds really, really good. I'm working with Coca-Cola. I want to pitch. I'm doing all the European-wide search marketing for them. But at the end of the day, all the smart people work on the brand with Coke, and I don't get to see it. So look, it's good from an ego tick, and it's it's nice to show off.
Makes your website looks gangster.
Exactly, it looks good on a LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
But really, what I do now has been from me grinding away, me hacking up marketing ideas. That's the stuff where the value really is.
Learning via experimentation.
Yeah, working with founders, working with myself, and knowing that actually, if I get it wrong, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. And you learn so much more. Whereas I would have spent
But it
weeks.
only doesn't matter because you're trialing with a little bit of money.
It's not even about the money. It's just Coke as a brand is worth what, $1 billion. If I get that wrong,
They do $1 billion a day.
Yeah. Whereas a startup company, it's not as risky. They're willing to pivot and change and adapt their brand to what's working, and that's the fun. I'm not going to turn up and go, Coke, you should make all your drinks see-through. Great idea, Jared. We're never going to do it because too risky.
And also drinking black drinks isn't that nice. Have you ever had an espresso in a glass cup?
It's pretty bitter.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't like it. That's really cool. And one of the things that I really do admire and like about you and the way that you've worked with us and people that we introduce you to often is you don't really beat around the bush. If you don't understand something or you think it's wrong through your experience, you bring it up and you ask plenty of really difficult questions. Why are you like that?
Well, that gets back to the last company, the one I did in Brisbane called Zippy, which I didn't sell. So that's the one, a bit of a failure.
It was in Milton.
It was in Milton and South Brisbane. Yeah, we actually got some big office space there. It was the old flight centre. I believe a young guy called Jock rang me up once and said, "I'm doing this co-working space. How can you help me out?" And then I don't think I followed up on that, but I had some space and
you
look,
missed out, bro.
I did. I missed an opportunity there. Look where it got me. But my problem, I'm opinionated and I like an argument, and when I'm founded my own company, I was pretty good at arguing my case, and I would go see investors and I would argue every point they had against me and win the argument, but the investor would still stop and say, all the same, my gut tells me no. And what happened was, as founders, you have to be hard as nails, right? Because you've got to believe in your idea. If you don't believe in it, you haven't got the tenacity, you're going to fail. Problem is, it can be really hard for people to convince you that you're wrong. So I think, what did I need? I needed people to go, no, Gerard, you're wrong. Like, I had a business partner who focused on our sales side. He had the most insightful dealings with our potential customers. Yet, when it came to debating around with the founders, I would typically win that argument. We still laugh about it today. We laugh having lost a lot of money, but the reality is, if I hadn't have argued so hard and been so hard-nosed as a founder, I probably would have done better. So, why am I hard with founders, or why am I honest? It's because I know that I needed that a bit more myself.
True.
So I hope it works.
It's an awesome insight. No, I think it's true. It's really rare to find a founder of a company that is doing well or really believes in their product, that is truly receptive to feedback and perspective and other people's opinions. I think it's one of the things that I've done quite well over the last sort of year and a bit, is really go, right, Gerard is the pro. I need to listen to what Gerard's saying and stop thinking that whatever I know is true. And at least give you a shot before I decide you're a dickhead.
It is true. Like, I mean, my wife tells my 9-year-old daughter, smart people listen and dumb people talk. And that's an overly simplified scenario for a 9-year-old. But it is about, if you spend more time listening, you're probably going to pick up a lot more tips. But I think a part of it comes from this idea as well that founders always have to be crushing it, and so it is hard to listen because you're always shouting, you're always pitching, you're always trying to do a deal. So it's hard to get that balance right. But hopefully I do, and hopefully the advice is more often than not correct.
That's awesome. So you've got I don't think you want to call yourself an agency now, but you've got a company called Fractal.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Fractal.
So why I don't want to call it an agency is because, having run 3 digital marketing agencies, I don't like the model. And I don't like the model particularly for startups, because an agency requires you to outsource your work. If you're a founder of a business, you can't afford to outsource your marketing, and 2 reasons. One, the financials alone, but also you've got to be there as a founder. You've got to be touching your customers, you've got to be seeing what works, you've got to be driving that business. And so my issue is, why take a core component and outsource it? So what I do is, I like to call it I'm still working on exactly how to position it, but I'm now calling it a hands-on consultancy. And what I mean by that is, the consultancy element is about taking all my advice or knowledge and helping the founders learn. So learning how to do it, but at the same time not being afraid to roll my sleeves up and get in and do a bit of the work. So I'll build an AdWords campaign, but also teach the founders how to do it.
It's always the hardest bit, to do your own marketing or your own content or your own whatever. It must be something to do with like an emotional attachment to it, but it's true. I can tell a lot of people a lot of things about business, but I still make those mistakes. Yeah,
it's the mechanic's car scenario. They fix everyone's car all day long. They don't want to fix their own car when it comes to the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's so true. And that's why you've got an advantage as a consultant or an outsider, is that you can take that helicopter view.
Yeah. There's no emotional attachment.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really easy for me to go, no, that's a rubbish idea, and you can see it. And because I'm not stuck in the day to day, so I'm not doing that dealing with customers. I'm not getting angry. I don't have all the problems, the bookkeeping to deal with. I can just look at it holistically. It doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily be better than the founder. It just means I've got a different perspective.
Yeah.
Fractal is basically me. I started off calling it a company, and I started using words like we, and then I went, why do I need to do that? It's me. I'm in it because I care about founders, I care about startups, I care about Brisbane succeeding on an Australian scale and even globally, and I want to help founders succeed. And my driving force is not the success I had. It's, if anything, it's the last company where it didn't work out. And you go, I guess I have a passion, and I want to make sure that every founder's good idea has a chance.
I let you get in the door with us was that you wrote some sort of article, like, I'm sure you did this strategically, well, I hope so. You wrote some sort of article like the most influential people in the Brisbane startup scene or something like that. And I don't know, you wrote something about me. It doesn't really matter what you wrote, but I was like, I don't even know this guy, and I like him already. And then you knew who I was, and I think I met you at a Silicon Beach event.
Yep.
Up on Constance maybe, and you approached me, and I was like, Oh, fuck, you're that guy that wrote that, whatever it was about me.
Yes.
That's cool. I'm more than happy to actually talk to you.
Yeah, there's it's a brilliant social marketing technique. I can give you a couple of nuggets if you like.
Go on.
So one is leveraging other people's brands. So, for example, you might decide to launch a podcast for Little Tokyo 2 and interview people who have big LinkedIn followings. So people like that might share it. So it's a way that you can amplify your noise, and it's a good exchange. It's like I rub your back, you scratch mine, whatever the story is.
I think they're both scratching.
Scratching, both people scratch, not rubbing. That's not.
It's just scratching.
And in a business context, you scratch. Yeah. Look, so that helps, but it's also
we are not sitting here scratching each other's backs. By the way.
We're sitting awkwardly now, wondering what we've said. That's a good way of doing it. And when you're starting out, you do need to leverage other people's brands. And as your personal brand builds up, you realize your personal brand's building up when other people are reaching out and tagging you. But you get involved with that. The other thing that other big tip I've got on social media is social media is full of people shouting. If you want to do something, be the person who listens. It's never failed to work that if you're the person on Twitter, I'll use Twitter as an example. Twitter's the worst case of it's an environment full of people shouting and nobody listening. If on Twitter you can be the person who doesn't start a new post, you just read other people's, you get your target list of people you want to connect with, reply.
Yeah.
But don't shoot them down. Don't do a Twitter fight. Do a little bit of sucking up, show them that you've read whatever article they've read, and ask a question and get them to follow on. Yeah. It works every time.
Yeah. I did that to Delta Goodrum in my shoe company to get her to wear and speak about my shoes. Exactly that.
Yeah, I'm working on my Twitter campaign at the moment with a couple of other guys from Corilla. We're attempting to get ourselves some free Allbirds shoes. So we're going to keep tweeting and mentioning Allbirds until they send us a new pair of the shoes. If you don't know Allbirds shoes, they're awesome. Allbirds, if you're listening, I'm still waiting. But they're like woolen shoes. They're environmentally friendly. They're just cool. They do the best ads. Like if you want to look at how to nail social content, check out Allbirds. One of the co-founders is Kiwi, hence the reason why they're using New Zealand wool, but check out their content, check out their imagery. They are on point at the moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're my two tips, and Allbird shoes.
There's Allbird shoes. That's some cracking tips. So, what kind of companies are you working with?
So I work with startups that have reached some level of revenue. That's post $1.
Okay.
anyone pre $1, I donate my time. So my rule is basically if you've still got an idea, you're still working on it.
You're charging people who only make $1 a year?
Yeah, but okay, I'll go right into my whole model. So if you're making your money, it's just an idea. Look, I don't charge. I give advice, and that's effectively like my marketing strategy, right?
Yes.
Once you start to make a bit of cash, but you haven't got enough to pay people, look, I like to work on a combination of safe note through to payment. So effectively, I send an invoice out to someone, and they can choose to pay me via an agreed safe note, which means a safe note is a vehicle for. Built by Y Combinator, and the idea is you get shares in the future, and that's aligning my spirit with theirs. As they start to get their angel round, then they start switching from that and they start paying me, and that works really well. It allows me to get a little bit of skin in the game, gives me a chance to get some shares in some companies that I like, also helps me vet the companies I'm working with too, right? Because I don't want to effectively I'm buying shares, right? So I don't want to buy shares in a startup if I don't like the founder or I don't like the vision. So it's a nice vetting tool for me. And I work with them right up to scale up. My biggest client just closed a big Series A round. And at some point, ultimately, I become redundant. They hire everyone internally, and then that becomes the game. So that's pretty much what I do. I like to keep a nice spread of those things. I can't do too many early stage, and I can't do too many Series A. But if I keep the spread right, I should still keep my family fed and sheltered.
I bet you do. So I want to hear some of the biggest mistakes people have made, or most common mistakes people make in marketing. I mean, your go-to is social, right?
Yeah.
Facebook, LinkedIn,
Yep.
Twitter, SEO, AdWords. What's the biggest mistake you made?
Well, you mentioned SEO there. I actually think for a lot of startups, they make a massive mistake with SEO. See, the thing with SEO is it's a long game, and people get really taken in by the idea that SEO is free traffic and they're going to build a business around that. problem is with a startup is if it's a proper startup and it's actually innovative, there's no demand. So if there's no demand, there's no one coming through the business. Second, if you pivot and you've put 6 or 9 months of SEO work into one direction and you change, where are you going to go from there? So SEO actually is a skill. Look, if you can find existing markets, sure, but generally speaking, and remembering that SEO is my love that I've been doing since 97, I don't recommend it. That's sort of a very specific answer. The more generally, the biggest mistake I see is that people try to appeal to the entire market. So they just, you could have a product that's built for accountants and you want to appeal to all accountants, but the problem is 98% of them won't want to work with your business. And it's not even that they just don't want to change. There's only a small fragment of the market that are the innovators. So the biggest mistake I see people making as a founder with their startup is they try to reach a broad market at the start because they want to get mass market, they want to get traction, they want to get profitability, whereas really what they want to do is find a niche, find the early adopters and win them over first.
That's right.
Honestly, it's almost always the first point of engagement with me with the company is to find that audience.
How many groups have you met that you could ask, who is your exact customer and what is the one thing you do better than anyone else for that customer? How many do you meet that can answer that straight away?
Very few. In fact, I'd say almost none.
Like 1 in 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I like a company like Allbirds because you can tell they've got it, right? Yeah. Lots of people, they understand the idea of a target market, but they maybe don't understand the difference between target marketing, which is just defining an audience to go after, and niche marketing. Wow. Niche marketing is when you have a message and a reason and a benefit that you're selling into that audience. And look, it's a little bit made up, but to me, that's the difference. People get if they're doing well, they're focused at least on a target market, but until they've got a niche marketing strategy where they know what they're selling and why they're selling it and then who they're selling it to, there's no point.
Yeah, it isn't incredibly difficult to find though, but it's okay if it takes you years or so on to get it perfect. Obviously, unless if you are making it work along the way, it's incredibly difficult to do it straight away because a lot of people don't know.
You don't, and we
didn't.
No, you never will. You'll have an idea and you'll go after it. But you've got to be open of mind to accept that you might not have got it right.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's the people that are nimble enough to keep moving around and adjusting their business model to find that early adopter market. They're the ones that will ultimately succeed.
It's also a little bit about like the 80-20, right? If the 80% of your revenue comes from selling office space, 80% of them are a certain kind, go after them, and anything else that comes, like hot desks or whatever it is that have 6 times less ROI, you treat them as bonus. You don't focus on them. They just come, and if they come, great.
Yeah, and you can get distracted too because what tends to happen is because it's a volume game, right? So 80% will make 80% of the noise, and that 80% of the noise is where you end up focusing your effort, and it's not where you're making your money. So it's an incredible talent to be able to break through. It's where product managers and new product managers are really making a name for themselves, is they're really dissecting who that audience is, understanding who they want to target, and changing that messaging. But look, that's probably one of the most important things, and that's essentially the biggest thing that I bring to the market. Yes, marketing tactics, yes, how to tweak a Facebook ad, yes, how to build a site for AdWords. These are all tactics, but it's the actual strategy behind that tactic where the value is in what I try to do anyway. And where I find and the frustration for me is that you've got founders with great products, great spirit, great reasons why they're getting into it, a fantastic mission, but and they're kind of trying to find tacticians to solve the Facebook trick. How do I unlock Facebook and make it work? And actually, it's a traditional marketing problem. You actually need a seasoned marketer who's done enough campaigns who can just go, this is how you need to do it.
That's right.
The technical knowledge is, there's plenty of people out there to do it. But what do I see? The other mistake I see is, again, it's that feeling that Facebook's a trick. There's something special and magical about Facebook. If I just turn the button, it's gonna work.
If I just get that one campaign or put $10,000 into that one ad or that one whatever, I'm done.
It's going to work, and you go, no, actually, it's slow. It's a cumulative sort of 1%ers that you change. So it's one after the other. You add them all together, and you find the right place.
How often do you think people should change or iterate their ads or their strategy or whatever they're doing? We kind of have a rule here. We do go through marketing iterations, what we deliver to the customer iterations, our sales operation iterations, and then like development in the team every week. So we have 40 weeks a year, odd, whatever it is. We do 160 iterations of what we produce per year. We feel like that's a lot for the stage of company that we're at.
Yeah, and you've got a very physical company, so doing more than that's going to be hard. Look, as a rule of thumb, if you're not running an experiment weekly, a different experiment weekly, you're just not innovating. If you're taking longer than that, unless you're actually like researching, a cure for cancer, from a marketing point of view, you're betting too much, too long, too hard on one idea. So try to break down everything to the core of what you're trying to discover. Work up a theory. This is just classic growth hack marketing. Come up with a theory, work out what success is going to be like, how you're going to measure it, run the test, and then stop as quick as you can. Yeah. If it works, double down.
So we'll double down exactly on the up. So I just want to finish on one of the coolest tricks that now that you kind of showed us just makes so much sense. And it's kind of, let's call it the $1 a day per post for 7 days. So like the $7 trick.
Yep.
And basically, let's say in Facebook, everyone has noticed that even if you have 7,000 followers like us or whatever it is that we've got, only 2 people or 1 person likes your post when you post it if you don't pay anything.
Yep.
But it's as simple as putting $1 per day for 7 days to change that from 1 like to 80 with comments and shares and click-throughs and so on. It's an insane trick.
Yeah, and I can't take full credit. I totally stole it from somebody. I just can't remember who to give credit to.
No, it's yours.
Yeah, it's mine.
I'm giving it to you.
I need to rename it from $1 a day to something else, but it's $1 a day and double down. So I've improved it, right? So the logic behind it is that $1 is the minimum you can spend. So you spend the minimum and you drag it over 7 days. Now, the reason you spend the minimum is because Facebook will find the cheapest and easiest people to get you value for that $1. Every incremental $1 above that is going to be less efficient. And the reason why you do it over 7 days is that's the best way to make sure you're reaching everybody at the optimal time. So that's your minimum. And the idea is you do it for all your posts and you get the best coverage. The double down part is once you find a post that is significantly performing better, you spend another $7 on that. And that's where you're going to get the performance. So you don't just leave these posts run and then you stop, you double down the ones that are working. Your performance will be, 5 to 10 times better just by following that simple strategy. And the great thing about $1 a day is it's something that every founder who's got a credit card in their wallet can go, I can afford that. Yeah. But not spending that $1 is just dying on social media these days.
It's a waste of money.
No one has it. Like very few people on Facebook anyway can get that reach.
Yeah.
The one medium where if you've got a huge audience, Twitter can carry through, but most people haven't got anything like the audience. LinkedIn's probably the only network where you don't need to spend at the moment. Yeah. If you can build a LinkedIn profile, you can do it without paying.
Yeah.
But if you're on Facebook, pay $1 a day per post for 7 days.
That's awesome, man. That's enough value. Thank you so much for your time today. That was cracking.
Problem. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for another week with our podcast series From Startups to Growups. If you enjoyed that, you can find out more about Little Tokyo 2 on www.littletokyo2.com, and you can find more of our podcasts on soundcloud.com/Little Tokyo 2. Thank you and speak to you next week.